If only I could sit across from the young man I once was, full of energy, ambition, and big plans for the future. I wonder what he would think as he looked at me now, sitting quietly in my late 70s, with a head full of silver hair and a heart full of memories. At 30, I thought I knew how life worked. I had my career mapped out. I had dreams of success, financial stability, and a kind of happiness that I believed would come once everything fell into place. Like most young people, I was busy chasing tomorrow, always believing the next chapter would hold the answers I sought. But life, as I've learned, has a way of surprising you. Some things turn out better than you imagined, others not quite as planned, and along the way, you begin to discover that many of the things you once worried about weren't worth the weight you gave them, and the things you took for granted were far more precious than you realized. Now, with many decades behind me and far fewer ahead, I find myself often thinking, if only I had known then what I know now. Not because I regret my life. I've lived a full and beautiful journey, but because there are lessons that could have made the road a little smoother, a little kinder, a little richer in ways I didn't understand at 30. So today, I want to share with you, whether you're 30, 40, or even 60, 5 things I would tell my younger self if I had the chance. Not as advice from someone who claims to know it all, but as gentle reflections from a man who has simply lived long enough to see what truly matters. Pour yourself a cup of tea, settle in, and join me for a few quiet moments. These are the words I would whisper to my 30-year-old self. If I could gently place a hand on my 30-year-old shoulder, my very first words would be simple. Slow down, son. Don't rush through life. At 30, I was always in a hurry to succeed, a hurry to accomplish, a hurry to reach the next milestone. There was always some invisible finish line ahead. The next promotion, the bigger house, the better car, the growing savings account. I thought that if I moved fast enough, I'd eventually arrive at a place called happiness, where everything would finally feel complete. But here's what life eventually taught me. There is no finish line. There is no final moment where everything locks into place and you can finally exhale forever. Life isn't a race to be won. It's a path to be walked, moment by moment, breath by breath. In my 30s, I often missed the beauty of where I was because I was so focused on where I wanted to go. I raced through family dinners thinking about work deadlines. I hurried through vacations, mentally preoccupied with projects waiting back at the office. Even during quiet evenings at home, my mind was often chasing tomorrow's worries. Looking back now, I realize how many beautiful moments I rushed past, moments I can never reclaim. The way my children's voices sounded when they were small, the simple joy of reading bedtime stories without checking my watch, the quiet mornings with my wife before the day grew busy. These small pieces of life are what I now treasure most, and yet I often hurried past them when they were happening. At 78, my pace has naturally slowed. I walk more carefully. I speak more deliberately. But in that slowness, I've discovered something I wish I had known sooner. The present moment is the only place where life truly happens. Happiness isn't waiting in some distant future. It's hiding right here, in the gentle steam rising from a cup of coffee, in the laughter around a kitchen table, in the stillness of early morning light. When you slow down, you begin to notice things you once missed. The softness in your spouse's smile, the warmth of the sun on your face, the way a grandchild's hand feels wrapped around your finger. These are the real riches of life, and they are so easily lost when we rush. I would tell my younger self, it's good to have ambition, but don't let it steal the joy of today. Work hard, yes, but not at the cost of your family, your health, or your peace of mind. The career will unfold. The money will come and go. But the people sitting beside you at dinner tonight, they won't always be there. The giggles of your children, the strength of your youth, even your own health, they are all passing gifts. Now, when I sit on my porch in the late afternoon, watching the sun set slowly behind the trees, I smile, not because life turned out perfectly, but because I finally learned to stop chasing and start savoring. Don't rush, my friend. Life moves fast enough on its own. If there's one thing I would urge my 30-year-old self to truly hear, it would be this. Your health is your greatest treasure. Treat it with care, long before it demands your attention. In my 30s, I felt invincible. My body was strong, my energy seemed endless, and any minor ache or cold quickly passed without a second thought. Like so many at that age, I believed that good health was simply something I was entitled to, something that would always be there as long as I kept moving forward. I skipped workouts when I was busy. I stayed up too late chasing deadlines. I grabbed fast food more often than I cared to admit, telling myself that I'd eat better next week. And when my body whispered small warnings, a stiff back here, a few extra pounds there, I dismissed them as minor inconveniences that didn't require real change. But now, sitting here in my late 70s, I see the full cost of those choices, not in one sudden collapse, but in the slow, quiet accumulation of wear and tear over many years. The joints grow stiff, and the walks that once felt effortless now require careful steps. Sleep doesn't come as easily. Recovery from even minor illnesses takes far longer than it once did. Energy, once abundant, now arrives in smaller portions that must be managed wisely throughout the day. I don't say this with bitterness, only with clarity. The body you care for in your youth becomes the body that carries you through your later years. Every choice matters, even the small ones you think you can brush aside. I wish I had made simple investments in my well-being back then. Not extreme measures, but steady, consistent care. A daily walk, not skipped. Regular stretching to keep my back and hips supple. Balanced meals rich in real, whole foods rather than processed convenience. Drinking enough water. Prioritizing restful sleep. And, perhaps most importantly, learning to listen to my body when it whispered, so it wouldn't need to shout later. I've watched friends my age who cared for their health early enjoy these years with greater ease, traveling, playing with grandchildren, tending gardens, dancing at weddings. Meanwhile, others like myself now live within narrower boundaries, limited not by age itself, but by the compounded effects of years of neglect. I would tell my younger self, your career, your projects, even your ambitions, they can wait for a good night's sleep. The late nights, the skipped meals, the long stretches of sitting at a desk, these are not badges of honor. They are quiet withdrawals from your future vitality. We often fail to see that health isn't just about avoiding disease. It's about preserving your freedom, the freedom to move, to explore, to fully enjoy life's simple pleasures well into your later years. Now, I savor simple walks outside, though they are slower. I treasure the days when my hands feel steady enough to write letters to my grandchildren. I cherish every morning when I wake without pain. These small mercies feel like luxuries now, but they were once within my full control had I only respected my health sooner. Take care of your body early, my friend, because one day your future self will either thank you or quietly wish you had. If I could whisper one more truth to my 30-year-old self, it would be this: invest deeply in your relationships, because one day they will be your greatest treasure. In my younger years, I was so busy building a career, chasing goals, and trying to secure a future that I often let relationships sit quietly in the background. I always assumed there would be more time to catch up, more dinners to share, more phone calls to make. After all, everyone was busy. We were all running our own races. Looking back now, I see that time has a way of quietly slipping past us while we're busy chasing what seems urgent. The promotions I once fought so hard for, they eventually came and went. The projects I stayed up late to finish, most are long forgotten, but the relationships I nurtured or neglected, those are what remain with me every single day. I've lost people I thought would always be there. Some were taken by time, others by distance or misunderstandings that we never quite resolved. And in their absence, I've come to realize that the real currency of life isn't money or accolades, it's connection. I wish I had spent more time truly present with the people I loved, not just sitting in the same room, but fully listening, putting down my phone, setting aside distractions, and giving them my complete attention. I wish I had said, "I love you," more freely, offered forgiveness more easily, and reached out more quickly when distance or pride crept between us. Relationships aren't built on grand gestures. They're built on the small, everyday choices, the phone calls you make just to check in, the shared meals, the simple acts of kindness that say, "I see you and you matter to me." In my 70s now, I treasure the long conversations with my children, the laughter of my grandchildren, the quiet evenings spent holding my spouse's hand. These are the moments that fill my heart. They are simple, yes, but they are priceless. And I've also learned that it's never too late to repair broken bonds. There were friendships I thought were lost forever that found new life with a single phone call and a humble apology. Pride may delay healing, but love has a remarkable way of finding its way back when we open the door. I would tell my younger self, guard your relationships like the precious gifts they are. Don't let busy schedules or temporary disagreements steal years from you. People matter more than tasks, more than deadlines, more than any fleeting success. One day, when the noise of life quiets down and your home grows a little emptier, it won't be your bank account or your job title that brings you comfort. It will be the faces that still gather around your table, the voices that still call to check in, and the memories you've built together over the years. Build strong relationships, my friend, because in the end, they will hold you up when everything else fades away. If I could gently place my hand on the shoulder of my 30-year-old self, I would softly say, "Son, don't let money and status consume so much of your heart. They're not worth the weight you'll carry for them." In my younger days, I thought success was measured by numbers. The size of my paycheck, the title printed on my business card, the kind of house I lived in, the car I drove. These were the yardsticks I used to judge how well I was doing in life. I was always reaching for the next rung on the ladder, believing that once I climbed high enough, happiness would greet me at the top. And, for a while, it felt like that might be true. Each promotion brought a momentary sense of pride. Each raise offered brief relief. Each new purchase gave a temporary thrill. But like sand slipping through your fingers, that satisfaction never lasted long. There was always another goal, another comparison, another person seemingly doing better. Now, sitting here in my late 70s, I see how little any of that really matters. The house grew too big as the children moved out. The car eventually rusted. The job title disappeared when I retired. The bank account sits quietly, offering comfort, yes, but not meaning. What remains are not the things I accumulated, but the people I shared life with. The memories I built, the love I gave and received, the laughter that still echoes through my mind. These are the true treasures. I would tell my younger self, provide for your family, of course. Save wisely, be responsible, live within your means, but don't sacrifice your peace, your health, or your relationships in pursuit of more. Money is a useful tool, but a terrible master. I've known people who chased wealth so relentlessly that they missed their children growing up. They missed anniversaries, birthdays, even simple dinners, always promising, next time when work slows down. But sometimes work never slows down, and the people who waited eventually drift away. I've seen others build impressive careers only to find themselves isolated later in life, surrounded by things but starved for connection. And I've seen humble people with modest incomes who lived rich, full lives because they invested in people, not possessions. Status is even trickier. It whispers to your pride, making you believe that your worth is tied to how others see you. But those opinions are fleeting and often forgotten far sooner than you imagine. What truly endures is how you treated people, with kindness, with honesty, with compassion. In my later years, I've found great joy in simplicity. A small home that's easy to maintain, meals shared around a quiet table, walks in the park, the faces of my grandchildren, the soft voice of my spouse beside me. These, my friend, are riches no title or dollar amount can ever buy. If you chase money and status for too long, you risk missing the beautiful life that's quietly unfolding right in front of you. And trust me, no amount of wealth will ever buy back lost time, lost health, or lost relationships. So I would say to my 30-year-old self, and to you, work hard, yes. Provide, yes. But once you have enough, learn to let enough be enough. Trade ambition for presence. Trade stress for peace. Trade pride for gratitude. Because in the end, your heart will remember love, not bank statements. If I could sit face to face with my 30-year-old self, there is one thing I would want him to truly understand. Perhaps more than anything else, be kinder to yourself. In my younger years, I was my own harshest critic. Every mistake felt enormous. Every shortcoming gnawed at me. I held myself to standards I would never have imposed on anyone else. I carried the weight of guilt, worry, and self-judgment far longer than necessary, often believing that being hard on myself was somehow the responsible or strong thing to do. I would replay conversations in my head for days, wondering if I had said the wrong thing. I would second-guess decisions long after they were made, imagining how I could have done better. And when life threw unexpected challenges my way, as it always does, I often blamed myself for not seeing them coming. But as the decades have passed, life has softened those sharp edges. Sitting here now, in my late 70s, I see with much clearer eyes that perfection was never required. We are all flawed, stumbling our way forward, doing the best we can with the knowledge and strength we have at any given moment. I wish I had learned earlier that mistakes are part of being human, not signs of failure. That it's okay to fall short sometimes, to make choices that don't work out, to speak words you wish you could take back. What matters far more is what you do afterward, how you grow, how you apologize, how you learn, and how you keep moving forward with grace. I would tell my younger self, forgive yourself more quickly. Don't waste years carrying guilt for things long past. Life moves on, and you should too. Being kind to yourself also means allowing rest, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. You don't have to carry every burden alone. You don't have to meet everyone's expectations. You don't have to be everything for everyone. Sometimes it's enough simply to be present, to love, to listen, and to do your best, whatever that looks like on any given day. Over the years, I've watched friends who were gentler with themselves live with far more peace. They smiled more easily, laughed more often, and carried fewer regrets. They understood something I learned too late. Self-kindness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I've also learned that being kind to yourself allows you to be kinder to others. When you release yourself from constant judgment, you become far more compassionate toward the flaws and struggles of those around you. You realize that we're all just trying to find our way. In these later years, I have become softer with myself. I allow space for quiet reflection rather than endless rumination. I embrace the lessons from my mistakes rather than the shame of them. And I treasure each day not as a test to be passed, but as a gift to be lived. So to my 30-year-old self, and to anyone listening, I say this: you will stumble. You will make choices you regret. You will not always live up to your own expectations, and that's okay. Love yourself anyway. Forgive yourself anyway. Be patient with your own humanity, because when you reach the later chapters of life, you will realize that one of the greatest acts of strength is learning how to be gentle with your own heart. As I sit here finishing these thoughts, I find myself smiling softly. Life has a way of teaching us so many lessons, some early, some painfully late. And though I cannot go back and speak to that young man I once was, perhaps by sharing these words, I can offer a small light to you, wherever you are along your own journey. The truth is, we all carry things we wish we had done differently. We all have moments we would rewrite if we could. But life isn't meant to be perfect. It's meant to be lived, learned, and most of all, shared. If any part of what I've spoken today has touched you, made you pause, reflect, or perhaps see your own path with a bit more tenderness, then I am grateful. That is why I share these stories, not as a teacher, but as a fellow traveler, simply a few steps further down the road. If you would like to continue walking this journey with me, I warmly invite you to subscribe to this channel. Here, we will continue to sit together, sharing more lessons, quiet reflections, and gentle reminders of what truly matters as the years roll on. And if you know someone, a child, a sibling, a friend, who might find comfort in these words, feel free to share this video with them. Sometimes the softest words can bring the greatest peace when heard at just the right moment. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Wherever life finds you right now, I hope you carry these simple reminders close to your heart. Slow down, care for your health, nurture your relationships, worry less about status, and, most importantly, be kind to yourself. Until we meet again, take gentle care. Life is precious, and every day is still full of gifts waiting to be noticed.